A police project here in the GTA has landed nearly 24 people behind bars. York Regional Police unveiling the results of their latest mission to combat guns and illegal drugs. Officials saying there's
a drug that's 50 times more powerful than heroin, and it's fueling a crisis unlike anything the modern world has ever seen. This is not just about addiction. This is about chemistry, vulnerability, and a system struggling to catch up. Today, we need to talk about fentanyl and why it feels so good until it doesn't. What is fentanyl? Fentanyl is a synthetic opioid developed in 1959 by a Belgian chemist named Paul Janssen. It was intended for extreme pain, used in surgeries for cancer patients and end-of-life care. But unlike morphine, fentanyl doesn't just numb pain. It hijacks the brain's reward system with brutal efficiency. It binds to mu-opioid receptors in the brain, flooding the nervous system with dopamine, creating a rush of euphoria, warmth, and detachment from pain, both physical and emotional. Why does it feel so good? Imagine the best hug you've ever felt, the warmest blanket, the deepest sleep. Now amplify that 100 times. That's how users describe fentanyl. It floods the brain with dopamine, far beyond what natural experiences can offer. It creates a false paradise, short-lived but immensely powerful. This is why it feels so good, not because it heals, but because it overwhelms. Your brain begins to crave it, not just for pleasure, but for survival. That's how addiction begins, not always through choice, but through chemistry. How potent? Is it really? A few grains of fentanyl, barely enough to cover a penny, can kill. It's 50 times more potent than heroin and 100 times stronger than morphine. That's why it's so deadly. There's no room for error. One wrong batch, one miscalculation, and a person stops breathing within minutes. Even worse, it's often mixed into other street drugs without users ever knowing. From medical use to mass crisis, fentanyl was once confined to hospital walls. But today, it's in every city, every town, often in counterfeit pills, often killing the first-time user. The opioid epidemic didn't start with fentanyl. It began with legal painkillers like OxyContin. When regulation cracked down, black markets filled the void, with fentanyl as their golden product. It's cheaper, easier to make, and far more addictive. And now, it's everywhere. The physiology of overdose. Fentanyl doesn't kill by shock or trauma. It kills by suffocation. When too much is taken, it slows breathing to a crawl until it stops. The body shuts down silently. This is why naloxone, also known as Narcan, has become a life-saving tool. It rapidly reverses opioid overdoses, buying time for emergency care. But not everyone gets that second chance. Why it's so hard to quit. Fentanyl rewires the brain. Long after the drug wears off, the craving remains, etched into the mind like a scar. Withdrawals can be brutal. Nausea, chills, hallucinations, anxiety. And for many, it's easier to keep using than to endure the pain. But people can recover. With the right support, medication, and compassion, millions have made it out. The opposite of addiction isn't sobriety, it's connection. The illicit market. Most illegal fentanyl today isn't made in the U.S. It's shipped from overseas, often from labs in China, routed through Mexico, and smuggled by cartels. It's pressed into fake pills, mixed with cocaine, laced into vape pens, cheap, easy to hide, and lethal. This isn't just a drug problem, it's a global supply chain, and it's getting harder to stop. What can be done? Fentanyl is not invincible. Education saves lives, so does Narcan. so does understanding. We need policy. We need compassion. We need science. And most of all, we need to treat addiction not as a moral failure, but as a medical condition. Because the people who fall into this, they're not monsters. They're friends. They're family. They're human. The truth you're not hearing. Fentanyl feels good because it hacks the very system designed to protect us. But behind that pleasure is a path lined with loss, heartbreak, and silence. This isn't just about drugs. It's about people. Let's talk about it. Let's face it, and maybe save someone's life.